All right. Hi, Judy.
Hi there. I'm sorry. I'm not used to Barry's computer.
It's okay.
So Barry is with us. He's listening.
Hello.
Hi, Mary.
That was great. So it's 6:30. We can give it another couple minutes if you would like, or we can get started whenever you're ready.
Are our guests here?
I do
Yes, they
see
are.
both entities of Central Park are represented.
Okay, then
Judy, do you want to kick it off?
sure. Will, why don't you do your thing first?
Yeah, of course. Well, welcome everyone. If this is your first time joining us or the first time in a while, you'll notice that you're muted and you're going to stay muted throughout the duration of the meeting, except for whenever the co-chairs call on you. Following each presentation, as we move through the agenda, co-chairs will call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon and pressing the raise hand button. It's not the wave or the thumbs up, those will disappear. Only press the raise hand button once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling in from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute whenever you're called on. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once one of the co-chairs calls on you. If you're having problems, the chat is available for technical support only to help with Zoom software. It is not to ask questions of the co-chairs or the presenters. They will never see those chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you may need to go to the participants section where you'll find the raise hand feature there. And finally, we encourage you not to raise your actual hand or wave at the screen. We may not be able to see you and we may miss you. So chat me if you're having any problems. I'm here to help. And I'll hand it over to Felice and Judy.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Judy Schneider, co-chair of the Parks and Waterfront Committee with,
Felice Farber, the other co-chair.
and our first guest tonight is the commander of the Central Park Precinct, Deputy Inspector William Gallagher. We're happy to have you. And please tell us about your precinct, Central Park.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Good. Judy, Barry, can you hear me?
Yes,
Perfect. Thank you.
good to see you again. It's been a long time.
Been a while, Judy. Thank you. And hello, Barry. I don't see you, but I know you're here. And it's good to see a lot of familiar faces. Hi, Erica, and everyone from the Central Park Conservancy. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bill Gallagher. I'm the commanding officer of the Central Park Precinct. If I am familiar to some of you, I hope I am. I was the executive officer for 2.5 years in the 19th precinct, which is 59th to 96th Street, prior to coming here to Central Park. And I've been the commanding officer of the Central Park Precinct for the last 2.5 years. I took over just before COVID, and I've been a police officer for the past 22 years. Just a couple of updates about what is going on in Central Park. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone from the community for reaching out to the precinct regarding police officer Mohammed Chaudhry. As some of you may be aware, police officer Mohammed Chaudhry is an 18-year veteran of Central Park Precinct. He was off duty at his home in the Bronx, and he was attacked by a group of individuals. He was extremely seriously injured. He was in a medically induced coma with some very, very significant injuries. Happy to report that Officer Chaudhry has had some tremendous recovery and was released from the hospital this afternoon. And we're really glad that he is back. Many of you may know him. He works on the 3 to 11 shift. And thank you to the many, many people in the community that reached out to the precinct inquiring about his well-being. We're very grateful for that. As far as crime and various public safety issues in Central Park. We are having some challenges in Central Park. We very recently arrested an individual and charged them, well, two people, and charged them with a pair of robberies that occurred in the northern part of the park. Also yesterday, we arrested an individual for the crime of forcible touching. This individual came up on a female jogger and touched them without their consent in a very private area. That person immediately flagged down a police officer. We had a foot pursuit through the northern part of the park, and were able to apprehend that individual. One of the things that I can't stress enough to people, particularly when they're inside Central Park, is calling 911 immediately. Just so you know, a lot of people sometimes get confused inside Central Park. Where are they? Every lamppost inside Central Park has your actual street location on it. So if you ever need an emergency to relay to somebody where in the park you are, you simply go to the lamppost. The lamppost has a number, and that number corresponds with a rough street address. And that's how emergency workers, such as the police or the fire department, can come find you and respond to it. When individuals who are victims of crimes call 911 from Central Park, from the actual scene, we have an absolute fantastic track record of catching that individual immediately. I can tell you, and I'm sure everybody here knows, that Central Park is a very unusual place to navigate, particularly at night. And I can tell you that nobody knows Central Park better than the police officers that work here, maybe the Conservancy as well. But at night, we really know exactly where to go and how to canvass Central Park and make sure that somebody who commits a crime is certainly apprehended. One of the major structural issues that we face in Central Park, and I'm sure many people have heard about this because it's a topic of discussion, is some of the concerns that we have with respect to criminal justice reforms and the issue of bail. We believe we're being strongly hurt in terms of our crime numbers and public safety by the current system of bail in New York. And we are definitely hoping for that to change. I know that comes up a lot, and it's something that I personally see almost every day. And I think it has a very, 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 very profound effect on public safety in New York City. In terms of traffic and public safety concerns about e-bikes and motorcycles in Central Park, I know that comes up a lot. That is one of the most common questions I get. Just so you know, I just wanted to share a couple of statistics that I think could help alleviate some people's concerns about that. For the year, beginning January 1st to September 1st, there have been 25 collisions in Central Park. Those are vehicle colliding with each other. Only 14 of them resulted in an injury, and that is a decline of 28% from last year. So we are seeing less of that, thankfully. One of the reasons why I think we see less of that is we have a corresponding increase in the number of summonses that we give, particularly for motorcycles and mopeds and those type of motorized vehicles that you see not just on the streets of Central Park, but also the streets of the Upper East Side. We have a substantial increase, almost a doubling of the number of summonses that are issued for those. I can tell you personally, and I'm sure everybody realizes it, that with respect to traffic safety in Central Park and also on the Upper East Side, I'm very familiar with the Upper East Side. I can think of no greater public safety problem than these motorized scooters / mopeds / motorcycles inside Central Park. I know Barry and Judy and I have been talking for many years about this issue going back to the 19th precinct. And I just certainly want everyone to know that inside the park, we've really substantially increased our enforcement. And so has the 19th precinct, which is Melissa Eager is a wonderful partner in this. I don't really want to spend most of my time talking. I would definitely like to take some questions or listen to whatever anybody has. And Judy, can I open the floor to any questions about crime and public safety in Central Park or the city?
Yeah, sure. And we're very happy to hear that Officer Chaudhry is out of the hospital. When do you expect that he will be returning to work, or will it be sometime before he's able to do that?
I think it's going to be some time, sadly, before he is able to come back to work as a police officer. He was received fantastic medical care at Jacoby Hospital in the Bronx, which I want to publicly say how great they were. And I think he's got a long road to recovery, but we're very hopeful that he will be back.
Well, we're glad to hear that, and we hope he continues on this road.
Yes.
Will, I can't see if anyone has their hands raised or if there are any questions for the inspector.
Not yet, but I'll just remind everybody, if you would like to make a statement or ask a question, you can go to the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen and press the raise hand button. I do see that we do have a hand up from Barbara Rudder and then from Elizabeth Ashby. Go ahead, Barbara.
Thank you for the presentation. Some of it made me feel good and others make me frustrated. What are we going to do about the repeat criminals, the perpetrators? And I know that you're not going to answer. I'm asking a question that I know I can't get an answer
Oh,
to.
no, I will answer it. I'll absolutely answer it. You know, the police department has taken a position that, and I believe so is the mayor, that we need to have a what's called a dangerousness standard for bail, that a judge needs to be able to hear arguments at an arraignment that somebody's presence on the streets is a danger to the public. It's something that 49 other states have, I believe 48 or 49 states in America have. New York is one of the few that, or the only one I think that doesn't have that. So, you know, we're hopeful that will be changed. But we are out here doing our job. It is definitely frustrating sometimes to see kind of a revolving door of people committing pretty serious acts and being let go. But you know, we're going to continue to do our job, but we are hopeful that will change.
And I guess what you're saying is serious crime. And then I've had discussions, part of public safety. I'm co-chair of the Health Senior Social Services, and believe it or not, the judicial system is part of this committee. So we've heard from the DA's office a few times, and I think they're trying to arrange something with the 19th precinct. I guess that the argument that people have is, what is a dangerous crime? Is looting. You know, I mean, we get into also different types of crimes that really have affected our quality of life and safety.
Absolutely.
I
And
know I'm speaking to the.
no, I believe,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And just one of the things that I just want to clarify, and I think it's important, is that we're just asking for the ability to make an argument before a judge. We're not asking for hard and fast rules. Judges make decisions. Sometimes judges rule in favor of police officers and prosecutors. Sometimes judges disagree with police officers and prosecutors and rule against us. The only thing that we ask is just the ability to make that argument.
Right. Thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Next, we have Elizabeth Ashby. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Dogs.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. I live opposite Central Park, go there every day, and there is one absolutely huge problem that limits my ability to use the park, and that is the illegal bicyclists, which I would say is 99.999% of the bicyclists in Central Park. They ride on the path, all of them. I mean, if you see one off the park, or off the path, it's unusual.
Right.
Excuse me?
No,
They,
Yep.
they run the red lights. I walk on a rollator with my dog on a leash. I have not, for over a year, been able to cross the road in the park because they never stop. And as we were walking along, I was at a light on Saturday, busy day, on one red light change, over 20, I stopped counting at 20 when 20 ran through the red light. They never stop. And I think, I don't know whether it's park enforcement or you, but I've never seen anybody get, yet I'm lying. Once in 43 years, I saw someone get a ticket. And I think it's not like the crimes you see, but it's something that discourages people from going to the park sometimes. It lowers their experience, and we're going to get another generation of them. So I tell them when they do it, we get parents with their children, and I tell them, you're teaching your child to disobey the law, and it doesn't bother them. So we are creating another generation. So I hope that you can have somewhat, maybe a different anti-bicycle force, but it is a serious problem everywhere in the city. But because of the numbers of bicyclists in the park, it's worse in the park. And I hope you can think of some way to control this.
Yeah, and thank you for your concern, Elizabeth. And I'm really saddened that it stops you from coming to the park. I hope that it won't in the future. What the complaint that you raise is something that gets raised a lot. To me personally, just so you know, I just wanted to pull up the statistics so you know, we wrote 455 summonses over the last 56 days, which is a lot of summonses. Now, sometimes, unfortunately, we can't be everywhere, and I don't know that everybody gets to see us when we do these things, which I think is one of the benefits of me coming here to telling everybody that we do a lot. Sometimes people don't see it. But I can also tell you that during this year, we haven't had a single critical injury from a bicycle or a moped inside Central Park. A critical injury, just in terms of definition, is somebody injured, an ambulance is called, EMS and a doctor determine that person is critically injured, which is a higher or more severe emergency, medical emergency, and then rush to the hospital. So we have not had one in Central Park this year. Again, on average, about 43 million people visit the park, but regardless of whether we have had an injury or not, your complaint is absolutely valid, and we see it every day, and we are definitely working to address it.
Thank you.
Next, we have someone named Diego. Diego, you can unmute.
Hi, my thing is also going to these mopeds. I ride in my bicycle around the park like 4 times a week, usually in the evening, like around 9 o'clock. And I see these mopeds go like over 25 miles an hour. And when I circle the park, I usually see like at least 3 patrols.
Yeah.
And I never seen anything being done with these motorcycles. And I think you're instructed not to do anything. So what's the solution?
Well, we're not instructed to do anything. I'll tell you what, we pull them, we try to pull them over, but what we will not do, I think this is what you were likely alluded to, is we will not engage in a vehicle chase unless there is an extreme emergency going on. We will try to pull somebody over, and if they take off on us, we will not pursue them unless there is a really serious violent crime involved in that. This is kind of one of the things that I think as a police officer, there's a million TV shows about policing. and a million movies about police officers, and a lot of the more dramatic ones have vehicle chases. And that's simply something that, you know, they do in Hollywood, but we very, very rarely do. I've been a police officer now for 22 years, and I can tell you, probably count on my hands the number of vehicle pursuits I've personally been involved in, and they were for tremendously extreme emergencies. My thoughts, and it's the thought of basically everyone in the police department, is that if we were to engage in a vehicle pursuit with somebody like in a moped who took off, we would probably be making a dangerous situation probably more dangerous to the public, because now you don't have one vehicle going fast, you have a dozen vehicles going fast. So how do we address that, right? It's a fair question. The good news is that most of the mopeds do pull over when we turn our lights on. However, we also have other ways to investigate these crimes. When somebody does take off on a police officer and they don't stop, we have a detective conduct a follow-up investigation. And we do, in fact, catch people. Not that day, people don't see it, but days later. One of the also things that we've done very routinely is involve the use of a police helicopter to track these groups of mopeds. And we have a very successful initiative where individuals were coming up the east side, down up the west side in large groups of mopeds. And instead of putting police officers and cars chase after them, we call in a helicopter to follow them. We follow where those mopeds get stored for the night. And then we try to take them in the morning when it's safe. So I understand your frustration, because it is frustrating, and it is something that we're concerned about. But we would just be concerned sometimes that taking the tactics that people see on a daily basis, like pulling somebody over, could potentially create a larger public safety problem than the one that's in front of us.
And another problem that I see is that also at this time, there's e-bikes from deliveries, and half of them go the right way, but the other half go the wrong way.
Yeah.
And because they go in the wrong way, they usually go in the area where people are running.
Yeah.
So in one case, there was this woman running, and she had to jump into the grass not to be run over by one of these e-bikes, which I think is pretty bad.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. I certainly agree with that.
That's it. Thank you.
So if I could just jump in and ask a couple questions, and I really do appreciate your time and your effort, and thank you for coming tonight. Can you provide some statistics on where the crime is trending in Central Park? I appreciate the efforts to arrest folks recently.
Yeah, sure. Are you want to like geographical breakdown? Generally speaking, most of our crime in Central Park occurs essentially in the southern half of the park, or the southern third of the park, south of 72nd Street. I wouldn't attribute that to any particular pattern or trend. I would attribute that to the fact that that's where most people use the park. I think some of the statistics that we have and we've seen is that 2/3 of people who use Central Park enter south of 72nd Street. Obviously, the Columbus Circle is the largest, I think, entryway into Central Park. So most of the crime does occur in the lower half of the park. And I think that's simply because I think the lower half of the park is probably the most densely used area of the park.
And has there been an uptick in crime in the park, or are there certain crimes that have increased more than others?
Yeah, well, one of the ones that is up is robbery. And one of the reasons why is that we had 2 individuals who were going around doing robberies, but we were able to apprehend them and the robbery stopped. One of the things that we see is that when, robberies occur, and this is not just in Central Park, but this is just in any neighborhood in New York City, whatever number of robberies you have, whether they're high or low, it's usually just 2 people doing it over and over again. And once you apprehend them, the robberies stop.
Except for the problem is they're back out on the street the next day.
Yes, yes, depending on the level of robbery, correct, yes.
In your opinion, is part of the, is there an issue with the time frame that the prosecutors have to bring these cases? Is that part of the issue with bail reform?
You know, I don't want to speak for a prosecutor. I know that there is kind of we have to provide a lot of paperwork to the prosecutor in a very short amount of time in an arrest, and that was something that, you know, changed with respect to bail reform. It's called discovery. Like when somebody gets arrested, we have to turn over certain amounts of documents, and those documents have to be turned over a lot faster under these new laws. As far as a prosecutor's burden, it's tough for me to say. I'm not a prosecutor, but for us, we do have to turn over more documents faster due to the bail reform law.
Thank you. And do you have any advice for people using the park on how to stay safe? Certainly appreciate your comments about calling 911 immediately and how to identify where you are. I think that's a great piece of advice. Do you have any other recommendations?
Well, first and foremost, and above all, you know, we have incidents of crime in Central Park, but overall it is very low. You know, like I said before, the extraordinary fact that 43 million people use it on a yearly basis, and the number of violent crimes that occur are extremely low compared to the 43 million people that come in. So I don't want to deter anybody from using the park because the park is beautiful and it's everybody's outlet, especially during the pandemic. So I would always tell you that the park is safe. You should love the park and use it. But common sense prevails. So, you know, if you do feel like maybe somebody's following you, maybe something's not right, call 911 and call 911 from the place you are. A lot of people, like I said before, they step outside Central Park and they call outside Central Park. We would ask that you call from Central Park, inside Central Park.
Can I ask a question about the location in the park?
Sure.
Because I know we have a problem on the Esplanade. If there's not a lamppost nearby and you call 911, will they recognize from your cell phone where you are in the park without the lamppost identification?
Yes, they will. Actually, our 911 calls have GPS on it, so we can tell where a 911 caller is. It's just, obviously it's easier and quicker if you simply tell us.
Yes, but I mean, if there is no lamppost available and something is going on,
yeah,
it's nice to know that if you call 911, they'll know where to find you.
We will know where you find it, yes.
And there are spots in Central Park, and I don't know if this is still the case, that are dead zones for cell phones. Is that something that's been addressed?
Yeah, you know, this has been brought. I had a question very recently about cell phone dead zones, and I personally don't know of any because when I work in Central Park, I use a police radio, and the police radio works. No, I don't know of any dead zones, cell phones. It's not something that anybody until recently mentioned to me, but I mean, I'm definitely open to hearing from somebody if they think that there is a particular dead zone. I'm not aware of one though.
By summer stage.
By summer stage. Okay.
It is what I've noticed.
Okay.
And Barbara, you have a question?
Judy tried to send me a picture and I couldn't do it. Where on a light post do you look for the street?
So on every lamppost is a number. It begins with E, C, or W, east, west, center, then followed by a number.
But where is it physically? At the bottom? Where do you see it?
It's at you know, you have your thin part of the lamppost. Some of them are different ones are different. On the lamppost, genuinely, I would say, you know, at standard eye level, maybe a little lower, the number is there.
Okay,
Yeah, it's there.
I'll have to look. But
Yeah.
I don't see Will, and that could be it, but
Barbara,
Okay.
we'll get a picture and I think we could attach it to the minutes.
okay, thanks.
If you want, I can also put a picture up on the screen right now.
Oh, that
Okay.
would be good, Will.
Here's your standard lamppost. And it's
Right.
this silver plate here.
Oh, so that's above that's about 6 feet?
Inspector Gallagher, how tall is that usually?
I guess that's probably, I mean, eye level for, I guess if you're a little taller. They are on different parts of lampposts because I've seen them horizontally, as opposed to vertically, but they're very prominent.
What, excuse me, but what, I don't see an east or a west.
Yeah,
Am I misreading that? That looked like it said
60,
6009.
right.
Read it from top to
Yeah.
bottom. What the-
Every one that I've seen had an E or a W on it. I haven't seen every one of them.
Oh,
But
well, maybe that's an old picture too.
That was an old article, but
so that is corresponding to, so that I don't know where that is off the top of my head, but I can tell you it's on what would be the equivalent of 60th Street.
Okay.
I can also show you a little bit better of a photo. So if you give me 1 second, sorry.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah. So here we go. This is what I'm more used to seeing is something like this,
Oh,
or like
perfect.
that.
Yeah.
And so this one, would
That's
be-
like 2 feet.
So that one is on obviously West 67th Street.
that would be
The other one would
79th
West
Street.
79th Street.
Mhm.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Commissioner. Commander, we appreciate your coming and talking to us about the park. And in several months, we'll look forward to next year having you come back and chat with us again, and just keep us up to date if there's anything that you think that we should know about.
I certainly will. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
And now we move on to Erica Sofa from the Central Park Conservancy. Thank you for coming today. She wanted to talk to us about a campaign to get dogs back on leashes. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Erica. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Felice. Hi, everybody. Good to meet you all. I also, in addition to talking through this campaign, I wanted to use the opportunity, my colleague David Saltonstall is on this call too, to introduce ourselves. We are, I've been with the Central Park Conservancy for about 11 years now, but as of April, I was moved into a new role. I'm the Vice President for Park Use and Stewardship. So I'm overseeing 2 departments. One is community relations, and this department really works with the public, with different user groups in the park. So we're working with like the baseball leagues, the bicycle groups, just different groups that are using the park in some capacity. I work very closely with Deputy Inspector Gallagher, who we just heard from, Parks Enforcement Patrol, these groups as well, to try and I like to say, create a state of cooperation in Central Park. So I wanted to just put myself forth and say hi to everybody and make myself a resource for the community board here. And if it's not too much trouble, Felice, maybe I want to turn it over to David so that he could introduce himself too.
Absolutely.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for welcoming us. My name is David Saltonstall, and like Erica, I'm a fairly new arrival at least in the current position, which is Vice President for Government Relations and Policy. My position didn't really exist at the Conservancy prior to my arrival, so I'm sort of creating it as I go. But obviously, part of my job is making sure that the park has what it needs from city government. Mostly I'm dealing with the Parks Department and the Department of Transportation. Deputy Inspector, if you're still there, I would love an opportunity to sit down and talk with you as well. But I am also here as a resource. I would say that Erica is the person who's like more on the ground in the park and is running after whatever situation is emergent at the moment. My office is at 60th Street. I report directly to our president, Betsy Smith, and advise her on various things. And so, I think if there are larger concerns related to policy or whether you think agencies need to be doing more or less, then I am absolutely there for all of you, and I'm very happy to share my contact information with Judy and with others for wider circulation. So I think we really just wanted to say we're here, and we will come back whenever you want us to. But for now, it's just a quick introduction, and I do think Erica has some stuff to report on our off the leash tighten the leash campaign. What was that?
Yeah. So we actually have just wrapped up it was pretty much, I'd say, a 10-week campaign. This is something we've been working on all summer here in Central Park. Some of you may be aware of this, but there is an explosion of dogs in the city. So during the pandemic, a lot of people adopted dogs. Great thing, the shelters were empty for like the first time ever. But there were a few issues around this. One is that there was just like exponentially more dogs than there used to be. There also were a lot of new dog owners who hadn't had a dog before and haven't really known what the rules are in the park around dogs. This was happening at the same time during the pandemic, when there was kind of like a lightening up on rules like this, letting people breathe, not being so intense with enforcement around these kind of issues. And also here at the Conservancy, one thing that we have tried to do historically in the park is to reduce the amount of signage, to limit signage, for the sake of, like, as New Yorkers, we see signs everywhere we go. We're bombarded with like all of this. So coming into the park, one of our goals has always been to try to let people see landscape instead of being bombarded by signage. But what we noticed this year was simply just so many dogs, so many new dog owners who don't really know what the rules are. A lot of dog owners who do know what the rules are, but because the rules haven't been enforced or encouraged, just dogs are everywhere. The landscapes were getting torn up. We've just been getting so many complaints and just seeing it in fixing dug up flower beds, holes here in the landscapes. It's been a real handful. So we decided, let's try and tackle this. Let's do our best to come up with something where we can really try to tighten the leash a bit. So we started the project in mid-June, and we took 3 approaches all at one time. First thing was we redesigned the signs that are in the park. You may have seen them. They're in a few landscapes. We chose actually 6 landscapes in the park to focus on. These landscapes were the landscapes where we just see the biggest problems, just communities of dogs, lots of dogs every morning, lots of dogs every evening. 2 of those landscapes were actually right off of your district there. So there was Cedar Hill, which is off of 5th Avenue at 79th Street. That was one that's in the area, close to CB8. The other one was Pilgrim Hill, 72nd Street and 5th Avenue. There were 4 other landscapes as well that we focused on throughout the park. Basically, we created new signs. The signs kind of jump and they're very visible. And we put them throughout the landscape, really clear on what the rules were, which in those landscapes, the rule is the dog must be on a leash starting at 9:00 a.m. After 9:00 p.m., dogs can be off the leash again, but not until then. We also did a lot of outreach. So we went to Community Board 7 had a meeting, actually had a public meeting like right as we were getting started. So we were able to go talk about this before we even got started with the project and let them know. We did some news articles in some hyper local media outlets. We did a big social campaign. We created a website for new dog owners. If you just got a dog and you don't know like how to handle your dog in the park, here's the things that you need to know. And all the signs that we put up in the landscapes had a QR code that linked right to that website for people. We also did an incredible amount of outreach in those landscapes. So we have a community relations team. It's a small team, but we're pretty effective. And we actually like went into those landscapes every day, starting in mid-June. We started going and we went, we just wrapped it up at the end of August. So we were really connecting with people, talking to people about the rules, talking about why it's important to keep the dogs leashed. We had a lot of success. We actually spoke with 1,150 people during this time. And when I say we spoke with them, we really like engaged and had nice conversations with folks. We did see improvement. We actually saw 2 of the sites that I had talked about, Cedar Hill and Pilgrim Hill. We saw a reduction in dog off leashes over the period of time. So it was very helpful. We also got PEP, that's Parks Enforcement Patrol. They work with the Parks Department. And they joined us in this. They were part of the planning. The idea was that we were going to go do the outreach and then PEP would come and write summonses following the outreach. So I don't know if all of you are aware of this or not, but there was a lifeguard shortage this year that the Parks Department was up against. And unfortunately, as we got started with our project, PEP got pulled away and had to like do a lot of support at the pools. So they did come and write summonses. They weren't able to write as many as we had hoped to kind of get, the behavior under control, but they did come and write some of them through the season. So basically I wanted to come to the meeting and share this with you. It's something that we're going to continue to keep working on. The project has wrapped up as like a campaign, where we're really putting all of our energy into it. But it's going to be something that we continue to work on. When we see dogs off leash, anybody on our field staff here in Central Park, we will be asking them to leash up. We will continue to do outreach in the landscapes as needed. PEP will continue to write summonses. And we're going to continue to like revamp the signage throughout the whole park. We've only worked on those landscapes now, but we're going to like spread that around the whole park moving forward. So that's kind of it. And I would be happy to take questions about the dog campaign or about anything else that you might have a question on related to the park as well.
Could you put in the chat possibly the website address for the rules for the park, and then maybe we could, Felice, maybe we could put that into the minutes?
Absolutely.
Yep. Did you want the specific to the dogs, or did you want general park rules?
I think the dogs, because
Yeah. Okay, I think that's good.
Yep.
I'll do that.
Well, thanks for well, I should say congratulations on your new position. Thanks for coming and talking to us today. This is really helpful and interesting. We have our first hand up is Rita Popper, and then Lori Boris.
Police and Judy, we have Rupert Park across the street. It's a small park, but we understand what you are going through. And we think it would be better if dogs could read the sign, because people don't exactly read the sign, or they don't care about reading the sign. Right now, our park is in complete disarray, and it will be closed at least for a year because it will be renovated. And we hope to be able to copy some of what you are doing when it reopens, because the amount of dogs on the Upper East Side is incredible. So thank you for what you do. And as I said, I wish dogs could read.
I think I wish dogs could read too. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how things changed. But I will tell you, one interesting thing that we learned during this project is we were concerned about adding a lot of signs for the reasons that I told you before. That's a strategic approach that we have taken, is to try to reduce that for the sake of New Yorkers. So we thought, well, let's see how this is going to go. We were really testing it. And I have to say, we did not get any complaints from anybody about adding more signage in the landscapes. In fact, we received compliments on that, even sometimes from the dog owners when we were asking them to leash up and like pointing it out. Well, thanks for the effort, appreciate the signs. So that was a interesting, it was enlightening for us to get that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lori?
Hi, excuse me. Until about 2 weeks ago, I was a responsible dog owner, but I had to put my dog down, and I'm very sad about that. But that's not why I'm talking. Can I ask you to explain what the off-leash rule is? And also, you are not part of this trying to change that, is that correct?
We are not changing the rule. We're trying to get people to follow the rule.
Okay.
So the rule is, so just so that everybody understands, if you have a dog in New York City, the actual law is that the dog needs to be leashed the moment you leave your house, your home, until the moment you get back. The dog should always be leashed. But there is a privilege that is allowed in parks where before 9 a.m. and after 9 p.m. in specified landscapes, you can let your dog off the leash. So it's different depending on the type of landscape. And like, for instance, you can't just let your dog jump into a fountain or jump into the lake ever, even before 9 a.m. Like, you could get a ticket for that. There are certain ball fields are another example, like on the Great Lawn or even North Meadow ball fields, dogs are never allowed off the leash in those landscapes. So there are, in that website that I passed on, that we can all take a look at later, you can take a look at your leisure, but we list in that website like what landscapes dogs can be off the leash before 9 and after 9, and what landscapes they cannot. There are other landscapes where dogs aren't even allowed. Sheep meadow, perfect example. Dogs aren't allowed in sheep meadow, even if it's on a leash, they're just not allowed there. If you want to have a picnic with your dog, you would have to take it to one of the greens, which are also really nice, but not inside sheep meadow.
Okay, thank you very much. And I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I think that I agree with you about the dogs. Rita, the dogs should be able to read. And anyway, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Next up is Sandra Lerner.
Hi, can you hear me?
I
Yes.
can. Hi.
Okay, hi, Erica. I walk in Central Park. I enter on 79th Street and 5th Avenue every morning at 7 a.m. with my dog. I unleash my dog when I enter the park. We walk around the Great Lawn. I must say your signage is wonderful on the fences that say that the fence area, the lawn is not opened until 9 a.m. I see people undo the fences. I see a bunch of dog owners undo them and go in. But fortunately, the wonderful workers at the park who go around collecting garbage and all will see that and will chase them out and lock up the fence. So I know that they're doing that on a daily basis. I also know that that hill you talked about on 79th Street has decreased tremendously with the amount of dogs that would be there. Just amazing job that you have done. On the 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on leash, what parks other than Central Park can you take your dog before 9 a.m. and after 9 p.m. off leash? I can't find it clear anywhere what is considered a park and when you can do that. So I'd like to know if you have an answer, please.
It was my understanding that this applied to parks that do not have dog runs. So that if there is a dog run in the park, you should be using the dog run. But if there is not a dog run, that you could then go with the before 9 a.m., after 9 p.m. But what I would recommend, because, you know, when I know that from prior to working at the Conservancy, I was a park ranger for the city of New York, and a lot has changed since then. So what I would recommend, I can send another link to Will, that is the Parks Department rules and regulations, because I don't want to speak for like the larger, I know what we're doing in Central Park, but these laws are established through the New York City Parks Department. And I would prefer that, you know, we take a look there and like use that guidance. So I'll pull up that link. I have it available and I can send that. And that would be just a nice resource for everybody here anyway.
Okay,
And I've unmuted, sorry, I've unmuted Sheena Kaufman from the Parks Department. I think she was gonna chime in about that.
Perfect.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So you're absolutely right. Any park that has a dog run, there is no off-leash hours. All dogs must be on leash until they get to the dog run. I don't know about all of the parks, but most of the parks in Manhattan are like that. I think Central Park is one of the very few parks that have off-leash hours. Any other park does not, to my understanding. And there's a lot of parks and playgrounds, dogs are not allowed at all. But in large parks, they are. So you're absolutely right about the rule. I think everyone should go to the website for whatever park that they're going to see. I know for Manhattan, Central Park is the only park that I am aware that have off-leash hours. Carl Schultz, there is no off-leash hours because there are 2 dog runs there.
Thanks, Sheena.
Thanks, Sandra. Next person is Samantha.
Samantha, if you don't mind identifying your last name.
Oh, sure. Sorry, I should have changed that when I came in. But my last name is, my full name is Samantha Malone. Hi, everybody. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Upper East Side Dog Collective. So we're very familiar with kind of managing the dog owners and the growing population of the Upper East Side. I just wanted to share, Erica, I think the resources that you guys put together are really, really incredible. I will say, as a diligent dog owner, when I first acquired my first dog in New York City, I tried to look up what the legal rules were and like where my dog could and couldn't be off leash, and I couldn't figure it out. And seeing your resources, I think, is really, really helpful. Ultimately, though, I did not know about them until you spoke tonight. So I think there's probably some more work to be done in terms of distribution. And I'm wondering if there are any efforts kind of in place to kind kind of, obviously you've got that on the ground team, which I think is incredible. But one thing that really worked well for us as we organized our own collective was working with a lot of like the local businesses and local dog groups. And I feel like that might be a really beneficial thing for your efforts.
I love that. Samantha Malone, I'm so glad we're meeting. We got to get in touch. I want to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I mentioned, I just moved into the role in April, so I'm still getting to know the different, representatives of park users. So I would love to connect. I don't know how I can share can I share my email with Will and he can share that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
And then you have Samantha's email address, or Samantha, can you share that with Will?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send that in the chat to you, Will.
Great, thank you. And next up is Mubin.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, Samantha, thank you for adding that additional comment that you did. I'm with Muslim Volunteers for New York, with Stewards for Rupert Park. And I just want to echo what Rita said and what Samantha said. One of the things that happened was we had our stewardship event earlier this year in May, and we planted roughly about 3,000 plants, shrubs, and bushes. And then we had a community engagement event at Rupert Park again in June, which was purely a musical event for the neighbors and New Yorkers. And one of the things that I was pretty heartbroken to see was not a single one of the flowers was there anymore. And all the neighbors and the park goers informed us that it's primarily because it was, you had dogs and children trampling over the flower beds. So I really appreciate the initiative Samantha and a group have taken. Samantha, I wanted to mention to you that while you guys were there during the event in May, it was great. The dogs were going to that allocated northeast quadrant. But as soon as you left, we could not tell, no matter how much we guided people to restrict their dogs to the quadrant, they were not. So I think it would be great if we can get together again and talk a little about what we can do, because we will be there again in October. It's my park days on October 15th and 16th. We haven't set our day yet, but most likely it'll be the 15th. We would love for all of you to come out, but it's a little frustrating to keep planting for the neighborhood and then have the flowers gone within weeks. So we will be planting bulbs. We have been relatively more successful with the daffodil bulbs over the years. But I think a little bit more work can be done to educate dog owners and neighbors about, the proper protocol for their dogs within the park. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beam, for all the work that you and your group are doing in the park. It's really appreciated by the community. Sheena, I'd like to ask you, didn't parks put up some signs for the temporary dog run saying where the dogs are to go now in Rupert? And it was my understanding that the people had been following that, or am I wrong about that? Will, could we unmute Sheena?
Yeah, Sheena, go ahead and unmute.
Yes, we're for the most part, I haven't had any complaints since we put the benches inside, the garbage, the trash can, and we put signage up. And so far there's no complaints. It seems like everybody's cooperating and getting along. So far nothing, and I'm hoping that it stays that way.
Well, good. So hopefully, Mubin, your next planting will survive until we get to the point where the park gets closed for the actual redo, which will be a while before that happens.
And
Thank you. We hope so.
Thanks, Sheena. When I have biked past the park, it does look like the dogs have all moved into that quadrant. And thank you for putting in the bench and garbage. Next up is Aliana, and maybe you could update us on how that's working out.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Judy and Felice and Barry and Mubin and everybody who really started kickstarting this into motion in May. I'll introduce myself. My name is Eliana Trayson, and I'm the co-chair of the Upper East Side Dog Collective. And we were part of the committee that essentially committed to taking care of the dog run if the design were to be approved as part of the renovations. And we were very glad that the community board voted in favor. And we were even more glad in May when we were able to turn this into a temporary dog run on the northwest corner of the park. In the months that have passed, thanks to Sheena's help and Laurie Knowles as well, and as I said, Judy, who I called earlier and really said she's been a bulldozer in this, we really have managed to get all of the dogs and their owners into the area that's been fenced off. The signs that were put off have been taken down. There are no signs indicating that that is the correct area. It's my understanding that there were parks police that were in the park on the northeast side today, which is not the legal side, telling people to leash their dogs. And we were glad to hear that the Parks Patrol are coming in and saying this is not the correct area and redirecting them to the correct area. We're very thankful that the fence has been put up. This was in the last week. The benches that have been added, people are beginning to understand that there is a temporary dog run, but there are no signs there right now. And the fence is a little bit counterintuitive. It's a very good fence to have, but it's not very clear where the opening is. People were taking that matter into their own hands and playing around, no matter what our collective did to put in, very stable fence posts and things like that. People would take them down and start playing around. We do need to make it clearer where the fence entrance is, how it works. And we also need to put those signs back up. But I will tell you that 90% of people with dogs are going into the fenced area. I am so proud of our community for what they have done. They are picking up after themselves. They're bringing in water. I do want to speak about access to the water hose so that we can spray mist over the dust, because one of the biggest complaints that we have in that area is that it's very dusty, but the community has been cleaning up after itself, closing itself into the dog run. The people that you see who are not in that area are people who are not aware of the rules, and that's because there are no signs. On the whole, I have to say that I am incredibly proud of our community for this, and I really do want to thank everybody for doing this despite the budget restrictions, because I know that all of this is being done on a very, very low budget. And I also know that this is an incredible, incredible gesture of good faith from the Parks Department and from the Community Board for helping us out with this. There are a few things that would make it easier for us to have this as a space: water access, clear signage, and the dispenser for the bags should be moved over from the northeast side, which is where Mubin and her group have spent so much time planting. Unfortunately, the bag dispensers are right there, and I think people believe that that is the side that they should be on. And if the bag dispensers are moved over to the side that they can be on, I think it'll make it clearer. I think that the next event, Mubin, that you host with the planting, people will be more aware of the fact that we have a temporary run. We will be on hand, as we have been at the last event, to make sure that all of our dogs are contained. And obviously our intention is to follow the rules to a T and to keep, as Erica is doing within Central Park, a very clear delineation between where the legal space is and where the non-legal space is. We're doing this for our dogs, for our community, and for everybody. So I'm sure there's more that we can speak about. Mubin, I just also I was going to mention this at the end. We're going to be having an event as well on October 29th. And initially we wanted to hold this event in Rupert Park because it's for our collective. Laurie Knowles and Sheena Kaufman very, very generously offered the use of the promenade next to the dog runs on Carl Schurz, where we will be hosting our event. We will be hosting it. It'll be a preparation for winter event where we'll basically be explaining to owners how they can take care of their dogs during the winter, giving community children the opportunity to have arts and crafts projects, to make indoor games and toys for their dogs, and to essentially just raise awareness of what we're doing to keep this influx of dogs leashed and to keep everybody safe, because we love our dogs and we love our community with the dogs in it. We just want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, owners, non-owners, and pups alike. And my dog can read, and my dog is reading Proust currently on the couch as we speak. And this is mostly because of the signs that were put up, and she understood she only has one place to play in the neighborhood. And that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next up is Len, and then Rita.
Hi, my name is Len. There's only, I just wanted to say too, the signage I think is great. I'm a dog owner, and yeah, I think being respectful of the areas is crucial for that as well. I also think that just, you know, adding even the fact that, you know, the dog owners can volunteer, or how they can volunteer to help with, you know, revitalizing or helping with the upkeep would be beneficial too, because as a dog owner, I would love to give back, because I know how much my dog enjoys off leash hours. So, you know, including something like that with the signage on the QR code, I think could be beneficial. And I just wanted to kind of point that out, that I think that a lot of dog owners would, you know, be willing to do the same thing.
Thanks, Len. And next we have Rita, and then Mubin.
This is just a special thank you to Mubin and the Muslim Volunteers of New York. They have done an incredible job in the park. Unfortunately, as they said, it doesn't last very long, but when we get a new park, hopefully we will, with a dog run, it will confine the dogs to a certain area. I will tell you that I was sitting on a bench the other night after dinner with a neighbor, and it was 9 o'clock at night. The park was open. Does the park, Rupert Park, close? It hasn't been closed any evening, but at 9 o'clock, there were dogs in the park with owners, which is okay with me, but it's hard to see. It was dark. But thank you, Mubin. Is there a time closing for Rupert Park?
Sheena, is that something you can answer?
Yeah, we close the park every night. The park is closed every night. The park closes at, I believe closes at 9 or 10 o'clock. I gotta remember, because we have one lockup crew, and they work from downtown to uptown. And you have one person, two people locking up all of these parks. And the time they reach, probably Rupert. I think Rupert or John Jay is the last park that we close. But we close Stuyvesant at 10 p.m. So after they close Stuyvesant, then they come back uptown and they close John Jay and Rupert. So Rupert is on, because Rupert is closer to our base. So once they close Rupert, they can go home from, you know, go down to Carl Schultz and sign out. So it's, you know, it's only two people doing this task, and it's a very daunting task. So at times it can't be locked at 9 o'clock on the dot, because we have other parks that we have to attend to before we, you know, sign. It works out that way. So sometimes it will be open to a little after 9 or so.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sheena, for your hard work. Mubin?
Thank you. Thank you, Rita, for those very kind words. We really, really appreciate all the support that you and Community Board 8 and New York City Parks and now the Dog Collective have afforded us. This is a collective team effort. That's how this park has been surviving. I just wanted to thank Ileana for all the comments. I guess our challenge continues to remain that, yes, most of the neighborhood is very compliant, is wonderful, and we're very grateful for that. It's always the rogue dog owner or the rogue park attendee that is obviously not following rules. I guess our challenge is that literally within 3 weeks, none of the flowers were there. And it's really, our heart goes out to all of you that are enjoying that park. And a lot of the city's resources have been denied. So I'm just wondering, I think we will probably revisit with Sheena and New York City Parks, the idea of having additional signs. I know in the past, we visited this topic with the commissioner, and the city has standardized all the signs in New York City Parks. So they are always hesitant to put a new sign, but in my neighborhood, I think HUD puts these signs that says, that dog urine or children will ruin flower beds. And if you could get signs like that. So we will definitely revisit this topic with New York City Parks and Sheena and see if there's anything we can do. But I think at least signage right at the spot where the damage is done would make a whole lot of difference, because I've seen the park rules outside of Rupert Park. They're very comprehensive. They're very well laid out, but unfortunately, many people don't read them. So I think if they're on the near the flower beds as people are coming in, hopefully they will be more mindful. So we will try to see what we can do with that. And Eliana, please send us the link for your event or the flyer. We would love to participate and get our membership to come and attend your event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbeen. And having helped out on the day for planting and having spent a fair bit of time on a very hot day, it was very disheartening to go by there not long after and not see any plants around. So I appreciate your concerns and your efforts to improve the park. And I think we have two final comments, Samantha and then Aliana.
And we're probably going to say the exact same thing because we're both members of the Upper East Side Dog Collective. But what I was going to say, Mubin, is in preparation for this event that we're talking about, one of the kind of big themes that Aliana mentioned earlier is it's really all about like getting ready for winter. And ultimately, like when we talk about that category, we're talking, yes, about like protecting your pups and all of that lovely information that dog owners care about. But underneath that, our plan is really to layer in respecting elements of the park and ultimately to make people really aware of the park scenario. One thing we've been talking quite a bit about is just like the overall maintenance of the park. Aliana mentioned kind of the dust and the desire to kind of spray that down and keep it contained. But I think the dog owners as a group are really aware of the damage that has been caused historically. And now that we have dedicated space, we want to make sure that we take care of the space that we have, even if it is temporary, and then also making sure that we're mindful of everything else that exists, and doing the best that we can to educate as many people in the community as possible around like, this is the spot you're supposed to be in, this is the one that you're not. So we're hoping that this event will help reinforce it ultimately.
Thank you. And Eliana, same comments or something different?
No, just slightly different. I do want to say that the fencing and the regulations for the temporary dog run, that went into effect after the last Muslim Volunteers for New York event. It was about 3 weeks afterwards, I think, that we were given the go-ahead to have that fencing. There were gigantic holes that were dug on the northeast side. I think some dog owners prefer it because of the wood chips. We'd like to wait with the wood chips, obviously, until after the winter so that we don't waste our money. But I think that the destruction that we saw on the northeast side, I think is probably one of the catalysts for why we got that temporary run approved. I see that there's a gigantic caution tape around the hole that was dug. I, for the life of me, cannot understand why people are letting their dogs off there when there's a wonderful place that you see lots of dogs having fun in. I do hope that, I think it's the order of events in which things happen. And I hope that this fencing will rectify that for the time being. What I did want to suggest, and this is something that Sheena and I discussed a few months ago, I know that there is a dearth of budget for fencing. One of the things that we discussed was perhaps putting up the wooden fencing, which are a little bit less, they're quite a bit less expensive, around the area that you're planting in. The reason that I would suggest that is because at least there would be a barrier which would show that it is not part of the central area of the park. I know that we can't put up the chicken wire. I know that there is a question about what fencing can go up, but perhaps in the mid-October event, we could consider as part of the volunteer work installing those kinds of fencing, which are not difficult to install and do not cost an arm and a leg. This is of course up to you and to Sheena, That would be my suggestion for keeping people out of that side of the park. People destroyed the fence that was put up at that park. And I think if we put up the metal fence, it will give the wrong idea once again. So a different kind of fencing that indicates that it's a planted area specifically might be very useful, both to keep the dogs on our side and to keep the hard work of the planting that's been done. I was at that event and I saw all that work that was being done. It's a shame. It's a gigantic shame. We want to have planted areas in that park as well.
Thanks, everyone. I certainly appreciate your comments and your thoughts. And Erica and David, thank you so much for coming tonight and for updating us on the efforts at Central Park. And as one of the questions earlier about opportunities to give back to the park, if there's a, help out my park day or other efforts in Central Park that we can promote for volunteers, let's do that. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And good luck in your new positions. Sheena, do you have anything else to report, or have we kind of covered you for tonight?
No, I have a few things.
Okay, go right ahead.
So I was at Honey Locust today, and it's about 55% completed. Some benches are there, some planters and some flowers have been installed. It's looking great. Contractors were on site, so work is still being performed, so that's great. We were able to finish up the painting on at Tramway. The bullets that's on the street side between the sidewalk and the bus lane, we were able to complete that, so the park looks great. I was there today. The park looks really good, and we were able to restore the steps leading to the MPPA area at John Jay. So we make some repairs to that in-house. Our shops team did a great job at repairing it. It looks great. And that's about it. We had a great summer. The pool season, went wonderful. We had some beautiful weather, and we had people enjoyed the pool in our district, John Jay, and very little hiccups. And I thought we just had a really good summer, and I hope we have a great fall.
Well, thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I think the ballards at Tramway really look good since you painted them, because they had really deteriorated. Do you have any word on when the big bellies are going to arrive?
No, I don't. I'll ask Mark, because I think him and Steve was on that contract. That contract was before I got here. I'll ask him. I definitely touch base with Steve. I'm actually in the office now, and he's in his office. So once we get off the call, I'll ask him.
Steve never sleeps. Also, you said Honey Locust was 55%. So what are we looking at for a completion date on that?
I'm hoping really soon. They're working really fast. Sometimes the contractors are finished before time. And this is looking the way it is looking. So I don't want to jinx it. I want to make sure, he finished, they can be able to finish up. But it looks good. It really looks good. It really looks good.
Okay, well, that's good. It will be really nice to have some parkland in that area. I guess that's it for tonight, Felice. Just want to say that next month, we're going to be having a joint meeting of the 197A committee and the Parks Committee. And we're going to have an update on the East Midtown Greenway and Andrew Haswell Green Park. And then I think we'll also invite the Friends of the Esplanade Conservancy to come speak for a few minutes and introduce their new executive director. Is there anything else, Felice?
One more thing.
Sure.
So everybody's, that Commissioner Castro is leaving by now, right? September the 15th is his last day, and we have a new Parks Commissioner, Anthony Perez, that will be joining Parks the day after. So we're really sad that Commissioner Castro is leaving. But we have someone else coming in, stepping in. I haven't met the new commissioner as of yet. And hopefully we'll meet him soon. His name is Anthony Perez, if anyone wants to look him up.
Thanks, Sheena, and hopefully we can have Anthony come and talk to us at an upcoming community board meeting.
Sure.
There is one other thing that I forgot, having to do with the East Midtown Greenway and Andrew Haswell Green. We had asked them to put up the signage early on in the project so that we would have a sign for the park at York Avenue and 60th Street. And it would go on the, I call it the trestle that supports the tramway that goes to Roosevelt Island. And it has a stanchion at 60th Street and York Avenue. And they were going to install the signage and have a tiny little ceremony in September, but they ran into some difficulty. So now that will happen sometime in October. I don't know if it will be before or after our October meeting, probably after our October meeting. So we'll give you an update on that.
Thank you, Judy. And I think there's someone has some new business or old business, if anyone wants to bring up. Phyllis?
Hi, yes, Phyllis Wallach. Let me just turn my camera on. Well, I'm trying to, but okay. Yeah, so I'm a member of some pickleball players that are in love with Carl Shores Park. We are actually now 634 members in our Tea Leach group of players that are coming to Carl Shores and playing pickleball every single day. We're bringing our own nets. We're playing at the far end of the basketball courts, and we're loving it, but we're hoping to get some permanent courts there. The other thing we face is that there are no signs disallowing bicycle riding on the basketball court, which according to the park's rules is not allowed. And we have kids on bikes there that are riding between the ball games and stuff, which is very dangerous for them and for us. So we're hoping that we can talk about getting permanent lines and, we're talking about not just kids. We have someone who comes out and gives lessons free to the kids. And you have seniors, and you'll see us out there at 8 in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. If you come by, we're constantly there every single day. So what can we do to get permanent court markings and no bike rules posted and things like that? And, this is the latest rage. If you guys haven't heard, it's going to be the next Olympic sport. Picklemania, I will tell you that.
So I can answer that. So unfortunately, at this present time, we can't, that area is not for pickleball. It's actually a hockey area, a basketball hockey area. I've spoken to a few of my chiefs regarding this situation, and it's the schools use it during the school time, and it's open for public using for kids to ride their bicycles and to play hockey and because that's what the court is.
Well, let me just this question. According to the New York City park rules, and I did look it up, it says there's no bicycle riding allowed in play yards and ball fields.
Okay, so this is not
a ball
but this
field.
is not a
basketball court.
So it's the basketball is actually a two-part. It's actually a hockey area. So we did receive a huge amount of complaints about the pickleball. So we tried to come up with
Nobody's
some.
playing hockey. Who's
Ho-
playing hockey?
ho-
Nobody's
ho-
played hockey there
Listen,
in 4
listen. I'm
years.
just,
What?
I understand. All right. I am sympathetic to everyone in this situation. And until they change the rules, we have to abide by the rules.
Where is the rule
So
written? Because I
the
didn't
rule, the
find
rule,
anything.
it's actually a hockey area for
It
skateboarders.
doesn't say that. It doesn't say that.
I'm just telling you what it is.
I understand you're telling me what
That's
it
what
is,
it's
but
on.
where it is, it's.
But what we're trying to do, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to come up with some reason, and I'm asking for a little section for the pickleball. But pickleball cannot take over the basketball people are complaining to me. They're sending me all types of letters, all types of phone calls. They're stopping by my supervisor's office and complaining. And we're trying to reason with everyone. We're trying to be helpful to the pickleball people. We're trying to be helpful to the bicycle people. We're trying to be helpful to the basketball people. But everybody can't win, right? Because someone is going to be disappointed. So we're trying to map out something where we can come up with. Commissioner Castro's, unfortunately, is exiting out, and we have to wait till the new commissioner come in to see what his view it will be on that and what we can decide on how will we be able to share the space. But we have to realize that for now, I've let it go. I was there today. Y'all were playing pickleball today. I did not stop it. I did not call the PEP unit. I let it go. But the basketball people are having a very hard time, and they're saying that you're intruding on their basketball court, right? So I was there today, and I didn't see it. So I didn't say anything. I didn't come down and say anything. But we have to work out some medium. In the winter, come the fall when school open, the school uses that area for their recess. So we're trying to work out something that, we could try to make a little bit of everybody happy, but I can't say pickleball can take over that space. I cannot do that. It'll be unfair for everyone.
Phyllis, why don't we give it a month or two and let Sheena work this out? We did hear a redo on part of Central Park where they're putting in pickleball courts in Central Park. So that's good for I know this is close to home for you, so it's more convenient, but you should also be aware that they will exist in the future. And maybe this is something Felice and I can talk to Sheena, and when the new commissioner comes, we can have a report maybe at the next meeting or the following month on seeing if we can reach some kind of a compromise. But I think for tonight, there isn't really much more that we can do about it. But thank you for coming, and thank you for bringing this to our attention. And Phyllis, this is a little personal note I want to give you. Our son moved to Florida last year, and he and his wife took up pickleball, and he now has 3 broken ribs from running into the net very aggressively. So just be careful. That's all I can tell you. The doctors are saying they're having a lot of pickleball things to treat recently. But let us get back to you. Felice and I will talk to Sheena, and we'll see what can be done in the next month or two about the situation and how we can make some kind of maybe a shared situation, if that's possible. Felice, do we have anything else?
I do not have anything else. Does anyone want to suggest adjourning the meeting?
We do have some hands up, I think still for new and old business. Rita Popper.
At our last meeting, I talked to the Parks Committee about going to developers and see if when they build in our community that a fund be set aside that would go to the Esplanade. And so I met, and Judy asked me to follow up on this. I met on September 1st with Minna White, but I met with Chris Carroll. Chris Carroll is the advisor to the borough president on policy. And Chris thought that this was really a very good idea. Obviously, we cannot do it for buildings that are under construction, but on any new buildings that would be coming up in the area on the east side, that this may be able to happen. So I just want you to know I've followed up and I am waiting to hear any further information on that.
Thank you, Rita. I think Gary is next.
Go ahead, Gary. Unmute.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Just two quick little comments on the pickleball situation, because I was very involved in what went down at the Central Park courts, where they've agreed to put some permanent courts in, and also to let us work very closely with the paddleball and handball folks that play there. We just had a whole day on Labor Day where we had a tournament, and we had over 200 people, pickleballers, paddleballers, handballers, people playing tennis. As far as the Carl Schurz Park area goes, I've played hockey there. I have not seen people playing hockey there in a long time, but it's probably because it's not winter now. I do agree that it has to be shared. It's only fair, especially if that's where the kids go to do their recess. So I don't think people are asking to turn that whole area into a pickleball area. Just like every other place in Manhattan, where groups of people are lugging nets on subways, chipping in and buying balls. I mean, all these groups that Phyllis referred to have literally thousands of people that are members, that just show up, they borrow paddles, and I don't need to tell people that pickleball is a new sport and it's growing and blah, blah. But I also don't think, if you're getting complaints, Sheena, from the basketball players, where they play pickleball is really not anywhere near the basketball courts. What happens is the ball rolls, when somebody hits a shot, it rolls over to the basketball players. And every time I've been there, they graciously toss the ball back, just like when one of the basketballs rolls onto the pickleball court. So I have not seen any contentious interactions going on there, and I've been there a number of times. So, you know, if children are allowed to ride their bikes, then it's only fair that if the park allows it, then they make room to do that. And usually that happens in the corner. I think all the folks that are asking for this now, because it seems like the city is starved for places to play. They're going to schoolyards. They go to 106th Street and First Avenue, the park there. They respect the time that the children are playing during the day, and they don't start showing up until after school is over. I think what they would love in this area is not that you put up permanent nets. Nobody needs poles, so that if people want to play hockey, they can still play hockey. I think all they're really asking is, just like they're doing in Central Park, it might be, and it's probably way long overdue, is to maybe resurface the area, not just for pickleball people, but for people that are rollerblading and skateboarding, like you said. The surface is terrible. And the gentleman that takes every day and goes to play there has graciously filled in the cracks, whether he was authorized to do that or not. And he comes there every day. And more than happy to take a net or two down if there's if there's need to share with other people, then let them do that. I think all they would really ask for is letting them maybe paint part of the surface so that they have, you know, a defined area where they know what the court looks like. So,
Gary, thank you very much for your comments. I think we've got the picture. Let us work with Sheena and with the new commissioner when he comes in. These things take time. As you know, dealing with New York City, nothing ever happens overnight. So let us work on it, and we'll let you know next month where we are and how we're progressing. Emmy?
Hi, it's actually not Emmy, it's Emmy's dad, Scott.
Sorry.
It's okay. We didn't change the name. Mine's very short because Gary just summed everything up. We're looking for shared time. We don't monopolize the basketball courts. They have their own space. They're very gracious when our ball rolls over, as we are gracious when their balls roll over to the pickleball courts. And also if you're facing the water to the right of the pickleball courts, there's a large space that is unoccupied where people skateboard and bike and play soccer and do all kinds of things. So that is a shared space. It's kind of roughly 1/3 basketball, 1/3 pickleball, 1/3 kind of empty. And I just wanted to put that in, and I don't have to say anymore because Gary actually said everything perfectly in detail.
Thank you very much, Scott. And does anyone have any other comments that are not pickleball comments? We'll be happy to hear them. Sandra? Sandra?
Yes, I'm here. I just want Phyllis to be aware. Look, I'm a pickleball player and happy that it's here, but I want Phyllis to be aware that that area, because it's been summertime, you don't see the children. The kids are out there playing hockey on skates. They're practicing on their skateboard. They're using their rollerblades. That's been a defined area for years and years, because I've been there with my grandchildren and they're all in college now. So it's years that they've been using it. Hopefully the Parks Department can figure out one pickleball net, basketball, and then the other area for all the other activities. I think that's the only way to make everybody happy. And I want to thank Gary for presenting everything the way he did. And I'm finished for that.
Thank you, Sandra. We appreciate your brevity. Next is EW.
Please identify yourself.
Yes, hi. I just unmuted. I just was going to just sort of echo what Gary said and just say that pickleball people.
Excuse me, can you tell us your name?
I'm sorry, it's Elaine Reitman.
Thank you.
Sorry. And I think that everyone that plays pickleball there tries to be respectful of all the other people that are in the area, whether it be the skateboarders or the basketball players. Because we do understand that it is a public space, and there certainly is no desire to take it over. And I just wanted to really echo what Gary said, because he did really cover it all.
Thank you, Elaine.
Okay.
Barbara will be our last speaker. Barbara? Barbara?
Yeah. For a future meeting, can we find out which schools are using the park space? Are they private schools, public schools? Are they places that may have their own gyms or something like that? I've noticed that schools come and everybody else can't come, and I would love it at a future meeting if maybe we discuss what's done. And pet peeve is those schools never give us any money for the Esplanade. So,
well, Barbara, we'll talk with Sheena and we'll talk with Parks, and obviously there's going to be a little bit of a time lapse with the change in personnel.
Absolutely. I don't mean next week necessarily.
Before we get an answer, but we'll, if nothing else, we'll let you know we're working on it next month.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
And now can I say to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night. Thank you. Great
Good night.
meeting.